Welcome to the Talk with Maria show. Justice, equality, and activism have shaped the very fabric of our society. Today, we have the honor of speaking with a true civil rights icon, an activist, a journalist, a professor, and a leader who has dedicated his life to fighting for justice. He is the president and CEO of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, a national voice for environmental justice. Please welcome with me today, Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis Jr. Sir, welcome.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
It's good to be here.
Thank you.
And I'm always honored to be in your presence.
Thank you, sir. When you look at life, they said the journey is already made and you're just following the streets of the journey.
Life is a journey. But in one's life journey, you don't travel alone.
That's correct.
You know, we're all, first of all, we inherit a legacy, we inherit a spirit of our ancestors, of our foreparents. And so as I grew up as a youngster in North Carolina, in the South, I was always conscious of, yes, my life, but how's my life connected to my parents' life, my grandparents' life,
Correct.
my great-grandparents' life. Mm-hmm. So when I thought about making life decisions, it wasn't just my decision. It was the decision of the family. Correct. It was the decision of the community.
Great.
And that's why I got involved in the civil rights movement at a very early age, because I wanted to see more change. I wanted to see more opportunity for people of African descent, African Americans and others. And as I grew, you know, then I started traveling to the Caribbean and Brazil and Africa, and you find out about the oneness of our people.
Absolutely.
Our culture, our blessing. I say all the time, Maria, we're a blessed people, not a cursed people.
Tell us how your journey began.
I started at a very early age in Oxford, North Carolina. My mother and father were school teachers. My father was a veteran of World War I.
Wow.
The year I was born, because of segregation, I could not be born in the hospital because they didn't allow black mothers to deliver in the local hospital. I have a sister who's 1 year younger than me. She couldn't be born there either. Ironic, today in 2005, my sister is over the hospital.
Wow, the same hospital.
She's a physician.
Wow.
Same hospital. She's running a hospital that she could not be born in.
Wow.
Let's show you how things have
Interesting.
changed.
Times has changed.
But to answer your question succinctly, I grew up very conscious of race, very conscious of discrimination, very conscious that education was a way forward and up.
Yes.
So even though I was a very mischievous young guy, I was also a bookworm. I studied and read everything I could, because knowledge is something that once you have it, no one can take it away from you.
Knowledge is power.
Right. So by the age of 12, I desegregated our local library. The law was I was not supposed to go into the library.
Wow.
But one day walking home from school, I said, you know what? My parents pay taxes. I want to read a book, some more books. So I went into the library and demanded a library. First, the lady told me, you can't check out a book without a library card. I said, well, okay, what do I have to do to get a library card? She says, well, the law doesn't permit me to give you an application.
And you distinctively remember this?
Yeah, of course. And I said, well, you know, there's got some comfortable chairs in here. I'm not leaving. I'll just spend the night here. I'm not going until I get the application. And she said, well, you know, your parents are school teachers. You're going to make them lose their job, and I'm going to call the police. I said, well, call the police. She did call the police, called my parents. And one of the proudest days of my life is my parents didn't pull me out of the library and spank me for trying to desegregate the library. They stood there. I got that application.
Wow.
And all my classmates were looking in the glass. They just knew I was going to jail. But because I got my application, they came in and got their application.
Oh, wow.
So that taught me a lesson at an early age. Injustice has to be challenged. Unfairness has to be challenged. We should never be, Martin Luther King, by the time I was 14, I worked with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and he used to tell all of us in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, never to be comfortable with that which is unfair. Never be comfortable with that which is unjust. And so I kind of grew up with that. You know, I'm you know, over 60-some years now in the movement.
Yes, wow.
And I think the movement is still alive, you know. I know the movement is still alive.
Yes, it is.
Given what is going on in
Absolutely,
America
yes.
in 2025, we need a freedom movement now more than ever.
Absolutely. Where were we after that?
Well, I became a writer. I said I used to read books. The key to writing is reading.
Yes,
The more you read, the more you can write.
yes,
Because reading helps you think of not only what is written, but what's your response to the written word. And the Bible says in the beginning was what? The Word.
yes,
The Word was God, the Word was with God.
yes.
So the Word for me is very important, not only to read it, but to write it. So in my early days in the 1960s, I got to meet James Baldwin. And he and I became very close friends. And he said to me one time, he said, Ben, the pen is mightier than the sword.
Yes.
So while a lot of people were kind of strapping, arming themselves with guns, I
Yes.
armed myself with a pen.
Wow.
And I learned how to write op-eds, editorials, satirical, you know. In my high school days, I became the editor of my high school newspaper. I was writing editorials against the Vietnam War at a very early age. So, you know, but it wasn't just individual. I had classmates. Quite frankly, back in those days, you couldn't get a girlfriend if you weren't reading.
Oh, wow.
So I wanted a lot of girlfriends, so I read a lot of books.
Right. Oh, wow. I can imagine how many girlfriends you had after that.
Well, I read a lot of books.
Interesting. How many books have you written?
Between 11 and 12.
Wonderful.
And of course, I know you have these Trinidadian roots.
Yes.
Very famous brother from Trinidad, Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture. He and I were personal friends. I used to drive Stokely Carmichael and Cleve Sellers around the South in the late 1960s,
Wow.
right after Dr. King was killed in Memphis.
Wow. So sad. We have so much to talk about, but we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with our continued conversation with Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis Jr. Welcome back to Talk with Maria. We are talking with civil rights icon, Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis Jr. Dr. Chavis, what inspired you to dedicate your life to advocacy?
Well, advocacy is raising one's voice. Advocacy is breaking the silence. Advocacy is also encouraging and motivating others to also be advocates. So I don't believe in being a loner. I'd rather be surrounded by people who are also advocates for freedom, justice, and equality. After I finished high school, I majored in chemistry. I became an organic chemist, but I was also working at the same time for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So I have this science kind of background, but also the religious background, so applied science and social science.
You're such a genius.
And that's how I got involved in the environmental movement, because I recognized that our communities were disproportionately being exposed to environmental toxins, environmental hazards. One of the things that we found out during COVID was all these pre-existing conditions among our communities. Well, where did these pre-existing conditions come from? Exposure to not the best air to breathe, exposure to not the best water to drink, and exposure to food that has all these contaminants and inorganic substances. So the more inorganic things you put into a living organism, the more that living organism is going to be damaged. And I know you're dealing with home care,
Yes.
health care. There's, Dr. Martin Luther King said, the greatest injustice that he witnessed as he moved around the United States He said it was healthcare injustice. So Dr. King said, because he realized once you lose your quality of life, once you lose your health, no matter what you've acquired, it means nothing.
It's meltdown to
Health
zero.
that's right. Health is the most important thing. And people don't see health care as a civil rights issue. I do, because of the disparities. People did not see the environmental issue as a civil rights issue. I coined the term environmental racism in 1982. In the early 1980s, the governor of North Carolina discovered that someone had dumped PCB, polychlorinated biphenyls, a very carcinogenic, cancer-causing substance, along the highways in North Carolina. So the governor ordered trucks to dig up this soil. The problem then is what was liquid now has become toxic-laden soil. So now you have tons, thousands of truckloads of PCB-laden soil. So what is the state going to do with it? In my home state, there are 100 counties in North Carolina. The most predominant black county is Warren County in northeastern North Carolina. And most of the people in Warren County at that time got well water. They didn't have city water. And of course, well water is controlled by the aquifer in communities, the surface water that comes up for well water. So that's the last place you want to dig a hole and dump tons of PCB-laden soil, because it eventually get into the aquifer level and get into people's well water.
Yes.
The local residents started protesting. I was living in New York at the time. I went back to my home state to help lead that protest. 500 people were arrested. It got a lot of national attention. And while I was in the Warren County Jail, that's when I coined the term environmental racism. And since that time, what started in that small rural community in North Carolina is now an international global movement. The United Nations has a section on environmental justice. The EPA in Washington, D.C. has an office on environmental justice, although I hear that President Trump may try to close it up. So it's a global movement now. And that just shows you that when you stand up for that which is right, it has impact not just for that day.
Right.
It has impact for the rest of the future.
Yes.
My parents and Dr. King drilled in my head that we all have to be responsible for how we shape the future. You're shaping home care.
Yes.
You're shaping how to give people opportunities not only to be employed, but to be caring for those that need health care in our nation.
Yes. It is definitely honorable to do so, because if you don't say anything, no one would know. The expression of understanding lies within the voice. And if you are quiet, like you said, no one would know, no one would understand. People would continue to suffer. And again, like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, health, you can have $1 billion. Right. And if you have no health, you have nothing. And so, which takes us to, what have been your biggest victories and your biggest challenges?
There's a series.
Yes.
First, getting that book out of the library when I was 12. Working with Dr. King when I was 14. I spent most of the 1970s in prison in North Carolina as a political prisoner. I was one of the Wilmington 10, fighting for school desegregation for children in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Even in the 70s, there were discrimination.
10 of us, I was 23 years old at the time. 8 of the 10 were only 17, 18, 19-year-old high school student leaders. 10 of us, we were sentenced to 282 years in prison. Obviously, we filed notice for appeal, and it took almost a decade for us to prove our innocence, which we finally did. Got the convictions overturned. But you know, I didn't sit in the prison cell idle. I was organizing, I was mobilizing, I was writing. I got my master's degree at Duke University, magna cum laude, while I was in prison. So you have to put your mind on what you want to achieve in life and go ahead and make it happen. So the challenges then in 1993, I was honored to be the National Executive Director and president and CEO of the NAACP. It was a great honor to serve the NAACP from 1993 and 1994.
Wow.
Then in 1995, I was the director of the Million Man March, the organizer of the Million Man March.
I remember that, 1995.
Right.
No
October
one
16,
thought,
1995.
yes, that a million men would
That's
walk
right.
up to Washington, D.C. That was such
Yes.
a huge picture.
It was a triumphant moment. We were so encouraged by that success. And today, I'm working with the Black Press for 14 years. I've been the president and CEO of all the black newspapers in America. That's my current job.
We have to take a quick break. When we return, we'll continue our conversation with Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis, Jr. Welcome back to Talk with Maria. We're talking with activist, journalist, professor, leader, and civil rights icon, Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis, Jr. Dr. Chavis, the role of young people in social movements from the 60s to now. What's the parallel vision?
The challenge today for our young people is they need more encouragement. Make them feel that they can reach their true potential. That's what I admire about what you're doing with home care. You're giving people more than just a job. So you're giving them an opportunity to develop into a service industry that can really make a difference. I also learn a lot from travel outside of the United States, particularly to Africa and the Caribbean. I plan to spend more time in Brazil in the near future. In fact, I need to go to the carnival in Trinidad. I've heard a lot of
Yes, which is
great
happening
things
right about now.
I know.
Yes, definitely. Beautiful colors.
Yes, yes. So, but you know, like I said, we are blessed people. We're talented. We have not only in sports and entertainment, but also academic. And sometimes I think we don't accentuate the academic as much as we should. You know, there's this whole syndrome going on now in the United States to ban books, burn books, change the curriculum, don't want young people to know the truth. But, you know, by doing that, it's only going to make young people search for the truth more.
Yes.
I think they say in the Bible, the truth sets you free.
Absolutely.
Well, that's true, but you got to get the truth.
Got to get the truth and you got to search it out.
Exactly.
Do you feel that the freedom of speech will be one of the things that's taken out of finding truth? Or do you feel that freedom of speech will continue to free us?
Freedom of speech is very important. It's not only in the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, but freedom of speech is also something that God gives you, you know. And what God gives you, no one can take away.
That's correct.
So I do think that freedom of speech is not only a privilege, a right, it's also a responsibility.
Absolutely.
We have to be responsible for one another as we speak out, speak up.
Yes.
In ways that encourages people. Because, you know, there's a lot of noise out here today.
Yes.
Know. People are speaking, but they're making noise. You know, I'm looking for that harmony. I'm looking for what brings us together.
Yes.
As a people, as a nation, as a world. One of the things I learned while I was in prison in the 1970s, Nelson Mandela and I were communicating by letters. And we came up with this idea of the oneness of humanity. We're all part of one human family. You know, racism, all this anti-Semitism, all these things that separates people are not normal. We're all part of one human family.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we take the change that we've learned over the last 60, 50 years for granted. And when you take things for granted, then it kind of clouds your vision. You know, we should never underestimate the cost of getting the right to vote. We should never underestimate the cost of being able to get an education in America.
Yes.
At once upon a time, that was, you know, not possible. But we changed those laws because we had a movement. We still need to change some laws, and we still need a movement. And that's why I'm optimistic, because I believe that, yes, we still have challenges, But in light of our history, in light of the legacy, we dare not sit down and rest and throw our hands up in frustration. No. Whatever happens, we have a responsibility to respond in a way that the change that we seek, we become change makers to make that a reality.
Certainly. We have to take a quick break. When we return, we'll continue with our conversation with Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis, Jr. Welcome back to Talk with Maria. We are having a fascinating conversation with civil rights icon, Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis, Jr., about justice, equality, and activism. Dr. Chavis, you've done so much. What else is there that you feel that you've not accomplished?
I want to write a few more books. I haven't written the autobiography yet. I want to do that.
Okay.
And I want to explore how to help people help themselves. My sister, who's a physician, she told me after the Affordable Care Act was passed by Congress, people would come into her medical office who had never been to the doctor before.
Oh, wow.
Whole families. And so we really have to work on how to get people to
not fair.
Seek proper advice to end some of the disparities
Yes.
in the healthcare industry. I think that's a major challenge. And lastly, our young people. I want to do more work with our young people. I'm still was very much involved with the evolution of hip hop. I was there with Russell Simmons at the founding of Def Jam Records. And I still occasionally do introduction to hip hop albums, Jim Jones, Dipset. We have, Maria, a lot of reasons
Yes.
why we should not be hopeless.
I see.
We have a lot of reasons that we should continue to rise, continue to push forward because of the benefits.
Yes.
You see, I'm a risk taker, but you take a risk if you don't involve.
Yes.
So I'd rather take the risk to be involved than take the risk to not be involved.
Agreed.
Because history shows if you get involved, it'll make a difference and it'll help accelerate the pathway for freedom, justice, and equality, not only for oneself, but for all of God's people.
Yes.
Yes.
What would you put on social media that you would want everyone to read about?
All these social media platforms are not owned by us. So what I would like to see happen is that you have more diversity of the ownership of these platforms. AI, artificial intelligence, I think can be leveraged like the internet itself. It can not only give people information, but how they use the information.
That's correct.
You know, I learned a long time ago the importance of studying the problem before you try to come up with a solution to the problem.
I feel there's something else that you want to do.
I'm a family guy.
Yes.
Even at my age, I'll probably get married again.
Ah.
I
Wonderful.
think, yeah.
My grandmother said only the road is old.
That's right, that's right.
Yes.
But also I'm working with other African American leaders, Reverend Sharpton at the National Action Network.
I was at his birthday party. He looks wonderful.
Right, Derek Johnson, who's head of the NAACP, Mark Morial for the National Urban League, Melanie Campbell for the Black Voters Participation Organization. I mean, all of us, we
Yes.
talk and dialogue. I would like to see greater unity among all, not only our leaders, but greater unity among all of our people. And again, this transcends English. I think that there's a large Latino population, Spanish-speaking population, that should be embraced.
Yes.
We're all sisters and brothers.
Yes.
You
Totally
know.
agree.
So I make an announcement on your program.
Absolutely.
I'm working on the first African-American owned social media platform.
Wow.
And be on the lookout, it's called The Drum.
Love it.
Because we beat the drum all over the world. The question is, are we going to listen to the drum?
Oh, wow. So powerful.
So
So powerful.
that's what I'm working on.
Wow. I love the drum. Look forward to beating the drum in the right direction and dancing that rhythm.
Right. See, I want to see Carnival every week.
Yes, I totally agree.
52 weeks, not just 1
Yes.
week. I want to see people dancing, having a sense of joy
Yes.
every day. That doesn't mean that we just kind of party our life away, no.
Right.
But I believe in partying with a purpose. When we got the Civil Rights Act of 1964, we were joyful. When we got the Voting Rights Act of 1965, we were joyful. When we got the Fair Housing Act in 1968, we were joyful. Now, we were sad when Dr. King was assassinated.
Yes.
We were sad when Medgar Evers was assassinated. But we all were determined not to let an assassin's bullet kill the movement. That's why all these years later, the freedom movement is still alive.
Yes.
Not only in America, but throughout the world.
I love you, and I thank you for all that you've done for the earth,
Well, thank
for
you.
human beings, and may God bless and keep you always.
Oh, well, thank you, thank you,
Yes.
thank you. God bless
Thank
and
you.
I'm glad, to me, what you're doing, Maria, is a form of ministry.
Yes.
It is science,
Yes.
but it's also a form of ministry. And I think you're helping people to heal. You're helping people to care. And I think that's the greatest virtue of all, is caring.
Totally agree. Thank you for joining me on the Talk with Maria today. I hope you found our conversations informative and inspiring. Visit our website, talkwithmaria.com, for resources and information. Share your thoughts on social media, #TalkWithMaria, and tune in next time for more inspiring discussions. Until next time, stay healthy.
Talk with Maria is made possible by... If you're passionate about helping others, become a certified home health aide with Home Health Aid Training Institute, 516-333-3689, or visit hhati.com. Experience the authentic taste of Italy in the heart of Westbury. Rialto Restaurant. Make your reservation at 516-997-5689. Brooklyn Boulevard Home Care. They care for you in the comfort of your own home. To schedule your care, call 718-683-8303.